What happens when a man over 50 dares to say just four simple words? He thought he was simply taking a break. But what happened next turned his entire life upside down in the most unexpected way. They say life begins at 50. That's cute. You know what really begins at 50? The slow, sarcastic unraveling of everything you once thought made sense. And if you're lucky, and I mean really lucky, you'll figure it out before those four little words come flying out of your mouth like a death sentence. But let me back up. My name is George. I'm 53 years old, divorced, slightly overweight, and proud owner of an aching lower back that creaks like a haunted swing set every time I stand up from the damn couch. But 3 months ago, I still believed in decency. I believed that doing the right thing meant something. And then I opened my mouth and said something I should have kept locked behind my molars. That day, everything started to fall apart. It began, ironically enough, with a birthday cake. My ex-wife, Denise, had a habit of forgetting dates, anniversaries, holidays, the occasional child's birthday. But she somehow always remembered to remind me that I was lucky she stuck around as long as she did. She says it like she won some sort of humanitarian award. Anyway, our daughter Emily turned 25 this past April, and I decided to be the bigger person. Again, I baked the cake. A real cake. None of that supermarket sugar sponge nonsense. I cracked eggs, measured flour, sifted cocoa powder. I made a damn ganache. The plan was simple. Show up at Denise's house. She insisted on hosting the birthday, even though Emily said she'd rather have it at my place. Drop off the cake, give my daughter a hug, and maybe not get verbally disemboweled in the driveway for once. That was the plan. I got there 10 minutes early. Big mistake. The front door was cracked open, so I called out, "Hello?" Nothing. I stepped inside, holding the cake like it was an offering to a goddess who'd long since turned to stone. And that's when I heard it. Laughter, Denise's voice, and someone else's. A man. Chuckling in that familiar, condescending way men laugh when they know something you don't. Then I heard my name. "Oh, George?" she said. "He's harmless. Honestly, he's more like a sad puppy at this point. Just says the same things over and over like a broken record. All I ever wanted was respect. God, if I hear that one more time." The room spun. The chocolate cake in my hands felt like it weighed 40 pounds. I wanted to throw it into the wall, but I didn't. I stood there like a fool, listening to my ex-wife mock the one thing I'd ever truly asked for: to be treated like a man who mattered. I turned around and left without saying a word. I put the cake on the hood of my car, sat in the driver's seat, and just stared at the dashboard for what felt like a year. And you know what I did next? I went to the party anyway. That's right. I walked right back into the lion's den, smiling like a drunk idiot in a church pew, pretending I hadn't heard the woman I once loved carve up my dignity with a steak knife in front of some guy whose voice sounded like a discount radio host. Emily was happy to see me. That's all that mattered. For about 5 minutes. Then came the question. "So, Dad," she said, "how's retirement?" There it was. The sting. "I'm not retired," I said. She blinked. "Oh, I thought, well, didn't you say?" And there it was. The moment I said it. The 4 words. "I'm just taking time." Silence. One of those ugly, humming silences that feels like the air itself is rolling its eyes. Those 4 words, "I'm just taking time," were supposed to be gentle, harmless, a way to tell my daughter that after 28 years of working 2 jobs and still barely affording new brakes for my car, I was giving myself a breather, a pause, a chance to not feel like a bank machine with a pulse. But in that moment, something shifted. Something subtle. Denise, who had been chatting with Emily's new boyfriend in the corner, suddenly shot me a look like I'd admitted to lighting the backyard on fire. My daughter's smile faded by 3 degrees. And just like that, I was rebranded. Lazy, directionless, unstable. That night, I wasn't offered leftovers. My name was barely in the group photo. I heard Denise whisper something to Emily as I walked out. You can't depend on someone who's just taking time. Remember that. That's how it starts. A good deed, a cake, a kind gesture, and 4 stupid words meant to soften the truth. That I was tired, not just physically, but existentially exhausted from being useful to people who treated me like a burden the second I wasn't breaking my back to serve them. The days that followed were strange. My daughter canceled our brunch, said she was overwhelmed with work. I noticed I'd been quietly removed from the family group chat. My sister, who used to call every Sunday, started texting once a week, short, formal messages like, "Hope you're doing well," or "Thinking of you." The warmth was gone. And at night, I started to question everything. Maybe I had made a mistake. Maybe you're not allowed to slow down. Maybe taking time is just code for giving up. Maybe I'd become that sad puppy Denise talked about. But no. That's the part of the story where you're supposed to wake up. That's where the coffee kicks in. Because the truth? Those 4 words didn't ruin my life. People's reaction to them did. People who can't stand to see someone older reclaim their time, their peace, their identity. They want you in the system, smiling, performing, providing. And the moment you say, "I'm just taking time," they hear, "I'm disposable." But I wasn't disposable, and neither are you. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how it all unfolded in. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing nobody tells you about getting quietly erased. It's not a gunshot. It's a drip. One day, you're the guy who shows up with birthday cakes and gas money for your grown daughter. And the next, you're the ghost who apparently needs space. At first, I blamed myself. That's what we do, right? People over 50, we internalize everything. We were raised to think that if something goes wrong, you handle it like a man. So I tried. I texted Emily, "Want to grab lunch this weekend?" Read at 2:08 p.m. No reply. I waited a day. Then 2. "Hey, just thinking about you. Hope your week's going okay." Read. Nothing. Meanwhile, Denise posted a picture of Emily and her boyfriend at some brunch place. 3 smiling faces. Not mine. And in the caption, "So proud of how far you've come. You deserve the best." I stared at it so long I memorized the font of the napkins on their table. It's funny, we talk a lot about being left behind in life, but nobody ever tells you how cold it feels when the people leaving don't even glance over their shoulder. 2 weeks after the birthday, I ran into my neighbor Carl at the grocery store. Carl's 62, retired HVAC, the kind of guy who thinks khaki shorts and white socks are formal wear. He looked at me like I had spinach in my teeth. "You all right?" he asked. "Why wouldn't I be?" He scratched his beard. "Heard you quit working. Thought maybe, money trouble." Ah, so the gossip had graduated. From harmless to humiliating. The story was out there now. George gave up. George lost it. George's clock's running out. You want to scream when you hear it, but you don't. Because if you scream, you confirm the rumor. You're unhinged. So you smile, nod, maybe say something like, "Just needed time to recalibrate," which is middle-aged code for, "Please don't ask me anything else." Later that night, I tried to bring it up with Emily. I called, straight to voicemail. I left a message. It's Dad. Just wanted to see how you're doing. I'm still here. Same house, same phone, same stupid dad jokes. Just call me, okay? She never did. You'd think that would be the worst of it. But no. The worst was realizing I wasn't alone. Not in the comforting way. In the miserable way. At the barber shop, at the gas station, at church, I started hearing echoes of my story from other men my age. Guys who had slowed down a bit, said something honest like, "I'm tired," or "I need a break," and suddenly found themselves politely removed from relevance. One guy told me his wife started calling him dead weight after he retired. Another said his kids stopped asking for help the second he wasn't useful for manual labor. It hit me like a brick. Usefulness is currency. And I was broke. I was standing in line at the post office when I ran into Martha. Martha was my old colleague from the district office. Smart, sharp, and tough as nails. She retired a year before me and was loving it. She looked at me like I'd aged 10 years. "What happened to you?" she asked. "Life," I said. She gave me this piercing look. "You know what your problem is, George? You thought taking time meant they'd wait for you." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You gave them space to forget you, and they took it." That night, I went home and stared at the mirror. I looked like someone who'd been washed out of their own life. And that's when it hit me. I hadn't just been ignored. I had been canceled. By my own family. By my own daughter. Not publicly. Not with hashtags or trending outrage. But in a soft, polite, surgical way. A silent dismissal. You know how they do it? They stop asking for your opinion. They start making plans without telling you. They say things like, "We didn't think you'd be interested." They love you with distance. They respect you from afar. They remove your chair from the table while smiling at you across the room. And the worst part? The cowards who watch it happen and say nothing. My sister, my neighbors, even my daughter's friends, all of them watching this slow exile and pretending not to notice. But I noticed. I noticed when the photos on the mantel stopped being updated. I noticed when my voice became optional. I noticed when my mailbox had nothing in it but offers for hearing aids and cremation packages. I wasn't old. I was 53. I still had knees that bent and thoughts that mattered. But the world had already hit skip. So I started keeping notes. A list, really. A list of every moment I was made to feel invisible. Every text left unread. Every event I wasn't invited to. Every time I was spoken about like I wasn't standing there. Because sometimes, if you want to fix the script, you need to see it written out in your own hand. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Everything that comes next, you won't believe how it flips the story on its head. I didn't plan on fighting back. Let's make that clear. I'm not one of those men who burns bridges just to watch the flames. I wasn't looking to prove a point. I didn't want revenge, not at first. What I wanted was simple. A return to human decency. You'd think that's a low bar, but apparently it's harder than climbing Everest in a bathrobe. After the silent cancellation, I kept to myself. I stopped reaching out. I stopped waiting. Every unanswered text was a slap, and I was done standing still with my cheeks turned. I started building something instead. Something sharp. It was just a notebook at first, then two, then a Google Doc with timestamps and screenshots. You see, I wasn't just documenting what they did. I was documenting what I allowed. Because denial? Denial is comfortable. It's warm. It's familiar. It's what you wrap yourself in when your daughter forgets your birthday, and you tell yourself, "She's just busy." It's the blanket you pull over your eyes when your ex-wife whispers behind your back, and you pretend it doesn't sting because We're past that now. I was done lying to myself. And here's the lie I stopped telling, the one that nearly broke me. They love me. They're just showing it differently. Let me translate that into plain English. They've stopped loving you, but they still feel guilty about it. One Sunday morning, I woke up and realized I hadn't spoken to Emily in 49 days. Not that I was counting. Okay, I was. 49 days without a text, a call, or even a stupid meme forwarded out of pity. So I did something drastic. I showed up. No warning. No, hey, just in the neighborhood. I drove to her apartment and knocked. It took her a full minute to answer. She looked shocked, like I was a door-to-door salesman selling guilt. I noticed her boyfriend's car in the driveway. Great. Dad? She said. Hi, sweetheart, I replied. I thought we could talk. She hesitated. Now's not really I won't stay long. I just need 5 minutes. She let me in. Begrudgingly. I sat on her couch. She stood. The power dynamic couldn't have been clearer. I'm sorry I haven't called, she started. Work's been… Don't, I interrupted. Don't tell me about work. Don't feed me the same excuse you've texted me in 6 different forms. Just tell me this. Am I still part of your life? Or am I the guy you tolerate out of obligation? Silence. Then came the knife. I don't know what you want from me, she said, voice low. You keep talking about respect and family like it's a checklist, but you don't do anything anymore. You just exist. That was it. The moment. The moment a daughter told her father that his existence wasn't enough. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. That would have been easier. No. She said it the way you'd tell someone their credit card was declined. And you know what I said back? Nothing. I stood up, nodded, and left. Not because I was weak, but because I was finished. You see, when someone tells you they don't value you unless you're useful, believe them. I drove straight home, opened my laptop, and started writing. Not a sad Facebook post, not a cryptic tweet. I started drafting a letter, not just to Emily, but to myself. It was titled, The Things I Won't Apologize For After 50. I listed everything. Taking time to breathe. Saying no to being treated like an employee in my own family. Wanting conversations, not transactions. Refusing to prove my worth to people who once used to beg for my attention, I wrote until my fingers ached. And then I printed the list, folded it into an envelope, and mailed it to Emily. No message, no signature, just the truth. I didn't expect a response. I didn't get one. But something shifted in me. Because that night, I slept. For the first time in months, I wasn't tossing around words I should have said, or trying to twist myself into whatever shape my family found palatable. I was 53, not 83, not dead, not done. And guess what? The next morning, I called Martha. Remember when you said I gave them space to forget me? I asked. She laughed. You ready to do something about it? I'm not ready, I said. I'm already doing it. Part 4 isn't just the finale. It's the transformation you didn't expect. Stay. You've come this far. Don't miss the closure. You know what they don't teach you about starting over at 53? That the first step isn't finding a new purpose. It's burying the old one. The one they gave you without asking. For 30 years, my purpose had been simple. Provide, fix, protect, repeat. I was the guy who always showed up. The wallet, the hammer, the emergency contact. But when I stopped being productive, they stopped seeing me. That's not a coincidence. That's a cultural disease. So I stopped chasing their validation and started building my own damn table. You know, since they pulled my chair from theirs. The first thing I did was say yes to things I used to say no to, small things. Martha invited me to a local writing group. I said yes. Carl, the khakis guy, asked me to walk with him every morning. I said yes. The library was looking for volunteers for a program that helped seniors navigate technology. I said yes again. And guess what? I wasn't just doing something. I was becoming someone again. One morning, while helping a man named Richard recover his hacked email account, he looked at me and said, "You've got the patience of a saint. They ever tell you that?" I laughed. "Not lately." "Well," he said, "they should. You've got a gift." A gift. That word sat on me like a warm coat after a long winter. And then it hit me. The people I'd been chasing didn't even know me anymore. But strangers were seeing me clearly. That's when I did something unthinkable for the old George. I created an account on social media. Not to stalk my daughter. Not to vent. To speak. I titled my first post, "I'm just taking time," and that's not an apology. It got 43 likes in an hour, 5 shares, 7 comments, all from people over 50 who said they'd felt the same. Invisible, unused, misunderstood. So I kept going. I posted every week. Sometimes I shared reflections. Sometimes a sharp anecdote. Sometimes just raw truth, like, they don't cancel you because you're old. They cancel you because you've stopped being their servant. It resonated. The page grew. And then, one night, I got a message from a familiar name. Emily. It read, "I saw your post. I didn't realize you were going through all that. I thought, I don't know what I thought." I didn't reply, not out of spite, but because I needed her to sit with that silence. The same silence she gave me for months. 2 weeks later, she called. We talked. Not the shallow, obligatory check-in. We talked. She cried. I didn't. I had no tears left. But I listened. And when she asked if I could meet her for coffee, I said yes. We met. She looked older. I probably did too. But we also looked level, equal. She told me she had resented how much I'd stepped back, that it scared her, that it made her feel like I was giving up. I told her I wasn't giving up. I was just done living inside someone else's script. I was 53. I was living, fully, on my own terms. And if she wanted to be part of that story, my new story, she'd have to respect that. And you know what? She did. Not overnight, not with fireworks, but slowly, like ice melting. She started showing up, calling, listening, asking. But here's the thing, and this is important. I didn't need her to. That's the real comeback. When you finally build a life you own, the people who return to it, they return on your terms. And those 4 little words, "I'm just taking time," they became my anthem. Not a weakness, not an excuse, a boundary, a declaration, a line in the sand that said, "I've given enough of my life to being who you needed. Now I'll be who I am." And that has to be enough. The moral. They'll try to make you feel guilty for choosing rest, for choosing peace, for choosing yourself. Let them try. Because anyone who only values you when you're working, fixing, or sacrificing never really valued you at all. But you're not too old. You're not too late. You're just finally free enough to see what matters. The end. If you're over 50 and ever felt like this story is for you. You are not alone, and you're never too old to reclaim your story. A support organization reached out. They wanted me to speak at their annual health awareness event, all expenses paid. And one morning, I received an envelope. Inside, a letter from a woman I had never met. "Because of you," it read, "I pushed back when my doctor said it was nothing. They caught my cancer early. My kids still have a mother. Thank you," I cried. Ugly, cathartic. Who cares if I ruin my mascara? Crying. Because in the end, it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about Frank or Gina. It was about me, about refusing to let my last chapter be written by people who hadn't even read the book. I never moved back in. Frank called a few times. He never said he was sorry. But once, he said, "I watched your speech last week. You looked strong." That was the closest he ever got. As for Gina, she posted a selfie with a "Support Women's Health" sticker on her Instagram. Zero mention of me. That tracks. But it doesn't matter anymore. Because here's the truth. I'm still sick. The cancer didn't magically go away. Some days are hard. My body is slower. My breath is shorter. But my voice? Never been louder. I wake up every morning and look in the mirror. Really look. And I say, "You are not what they reduced you to." I say it out loud. And some days, that's the difference between surviving and surrendering. So no, I won't die in silence. I won't go gently into that cliché. I will write, I will speak, I will exist. Loudly, fiercely, and entirely on my own terms. Because I'm not just old. I'm not just sick. I'm still here.